Sharpe has traveled the country and has personally visited every county in New York State, listening to people's concerns. The Sharpe Way is a show where answers, solutions, and common ground can be found so that together we can forge a new way forward. The Sharpe Way is the way to mutual respect, where no one has to convert to be heard, because you can be as liberal or as conservative as you want, as long as you aren't forcing your beliefs on others. Welcome to Sharpe Way Radio.
Oh, yes, it is Larry Sharpe. Sharpe Way Radio. So happy to have you with me this afternoon. Here.
You muted yourself.
There we go.
Larry Sharpe.
Here on Sharpe Way Radio,
the voice of liberty.
585-346-3000 is the number to call after the first break. I was thinking about something from when I was a kid. I've told people this if you've listened for a while. My father was a cop in New York City. And then he was a corrections officer. Believe it or not, at Rikers Island. At Rikers Island, when he was a corrections officer there. My chat is saying they hear an echo. Not sure if that's me or not. but I hope the chat can get past the echo.
It's not us.
The issue that I've been having is thinking about when he was that corrections officer. And how he tried very hard to be not a mean guy when he was dealing with some very mean people in jail, in prison. Clearly, there are some very mean people. Obviously. At the same time, there are people who don't deserve to be punished in prison too. Of course. The question is, we don't know which one is which. Obviously. They often do. Meaning the corrections officers do. Because they deal with them every day. But there's a second piece that would bother me. Which is even for those people who are the bad guys. Their families also pay a very high price for their actions. Even though their families didn't do anything wrong. Their kids, girlfriends, wives, moms pay a high price. How do I know that too? Because the odd part about my father being a corrections officer is that later in life, my mom saw the other side of that. My mom was a felon. She was an addict and went to prison. And I know how that feels. It's a tough place to be when someone you love is a felon. If you have someone in your life who's a felon, you know what I'm talking about. It's challenging. It's hard. With that in mind, I try to have empathy for both sides. The corrections officers who must deal with very aggressive, mean, bad people. And people who don't deserve that. As well as the family members who have to accept what some of their loved ones have done. But still try to live on with their life. Tough. Not easy on either side. So I visited a bunch of prisons when I ran for governor in 2018. Again in 2022, but far more in 2018. And I would chat with the corrections officers. I would literally just wait outside during the shift change. And as it went back and forth, I'd talk to him right outside of the prison. And I would get so much detail about how difficult it is being a corrections officer. How hard it is being that corrections officer. So many people that I met would literally know exactly how much time they had left before they would retire. To the day. Every one of them knew somebody who had committed suicide. The average lifespan of a corrections officer, 59 years. 59. It's a very tough job. And I'll put the second piece here, which is most people in America, in New York, when they think of law enforcement, they think of cops. I get it. It makes sense. Clearly, that's true. But is that all? No. Cops are a part of law enforcement. Of course. But so are corrections and parole officers. And all of them. And no one seems to get that. So what's happening now? Well, they get ignored. They completely ignored. Not just that. When there's a problem in the prison, it's by default the corrections officer's fault. Now, are there bad corrections officers? Of course. I'm not going to sit here and say corrections are perfect people. Of course not. They're human beings like anybody else. Of course. But does that mean everyone is bad? Or the system is so good that only the bad guys show up? No. Clearly not. But shouldn't the corrections officers get the same thought process that the criminals get? At least that. But they don't. When I was running in 2018, there were literally 3 years where they didn't even have a contract. They were taking zeros for 3 years in a row. 3 years. 3 years. Taking zeros. How in the world is that possible? How in the world is it possible that they actually, for 3 years, took zeros? Nobody cared. I did. I talked about it. On top of that, all of this, there's a thing called the HALT bill, which was supposed to be helping out with the prisoners. The HALT bill says we don't want to put people in solitary confinement. That's not a thing. Don't do that. It's harmful for them. And I get the concept. I do. But what did it do? It actually took a tool away from the corrections officers. They lost a tool. They couldn't do it. There are also people who want to go into solitary. They don't want to be in Gen Pop. They can't either. More pain for both of them. But I go one step further. I didn't just visit them. I would also head to the waiting areas, wherever their waiting area was, and I would talk to the families of the people who were incarcerated. Also, heartbreaking. I lost my dad. I lost my husband. I'm now a baby mama. All of that stuff was happening everywhere. Everyone's suffering. And who actually cared? Nobody. Governor Cuomo at the time didn't care. Governor Hochul at the time didn't care. Most of New York didn't care. So now what's happening? With all of these problems and issues, and the recent problem at Marcy, where that guy was killed, now the corrections officers are striking across the state. Different places, not every place, they're striking. Well, legally they can't. I go, what do you mean they can't? They can't. Here's the problem with the prison. And this happened during the lockdowns, during the virus. What happens if people in the prison are sick? We can't quarantine them. You can't. What happens if they get the guards sick? Well, the guards can stay home because they're sick. No, they can't. You can't close the prison. It's not like a business you can close. You can't do that. So now I got a guy who's got
who's sick, he has to stay home. He calls in saying, I'm coughing my lung up. I can't come in. What's going to happen now? What about the guy who's supposed to go home now? I guess he's got a double. I guess he's working 16 hours. Larry, he can't work 16 hours. What's the option? You going to close the prison? Send all the prisoners home? No. So again and again and again, the corrections officers get screwed. They have to stay. They don't get a raise. When that guy was killed in Marcy Prison, there were 14 or 12 corrections officers who were immediately convicted without a trial. Again, not saying they didn't deserve it, not saying they didn't do it, not what I'm saying. If you remember when it happened, the first thing I said is, where's due process? If these were bad corrections officers, punish them, all good, do it. But they deserve what the criminals deserve, which is due process. They didn't get that. They got pack your trash, you're gone. Pack your trash, you're gone. You do a job most people don't want to do. You do a job that that everybody knows someone who's committed suicide, where the life expectancy is 59 years old, and something goes wrong, you're gone. That's it. You're gone. And you wonder why they're striking. You wonder why they're unhappy. Constant disrespect. Constant unfairness. I spoke about this 7 years ago, and I speak about it now. The system has to be fixed with two critical groups of people consulted who were never consulted. The actual corrections officers and the family members, the people who are going to take these people back in whenever they're out of prison, the people who are suffering, who didn't do the bad thing. They should be consulted, and they never are. They're not. And the corrections officers, they never are. You say, Larry, that's not true. That's literally part of their demands. The stuff I was talking about, the stuff I wanted to fix 7 years ago, they're talking about now. We have officers striking in Attica, been there. Auburn, been there. Collins, been there. Elmira, don't remember if I've been there. Lakeview, don't remember. Wendy and Wyoming, been there. That's where they're striking. Now they can't. They might get in trouble. They might get in trouble for this. The DOCCS, which is the department, is saying it's against the law. They can't do this. It's illegal for them to do this. Why? You can't close prisons. Yeah. This is the problem. This is the issue. I want to cover some of their demands. They're things I talked about years ago. They're things that also actual prisoners would care about too. They're things loved ones would care about. They would all care about this. And we are literally doing nothing to fix this. It drives me crazy. All right. Let me grab, if I could, a couple of these demands. The first one I talked about was the Holt bill. What the Holt bill does is it basically says you basically can't do, you can't put someone in solitary confinement, no matter what. The problem is it's a law. Our Terrell Assembly people put this as in a law. Nobody wants to fix it. Nobody wants to step up. There's going to be a lot of laws being changed. Have I gone too far? You can tell me. Larry Sharpe, Sharpe Way Radio, the voice of liberty, 585-346-3000. Back with your calls and your chat after the break.
I've kept this muted here, so if there's an echo, it's on your end. Very good. Yeah, just when I went to start the show, your connection said muted themselves.
Only available in the WYSL store at WYSL1040.com. Official top quality tees, hoodies depicting the colorful WYSL logo or the already famous Mount Worstmore line of merch depicting Mount Rushmore style are for worst presidents. Of course, you know who is front and center up on that mountain. WYSL official items make perfect gifts, or they're a great way for you to make a personal statement. Locally produced and sold only in the WYSL store at WYSL1040.com.
Dion, you see this most likable spokesperson poll?
Really? I might know somebody. Oh, we're looking forward to this today, aren't we?
Seriously, guys? We're a team. We're not competing against each other.
Ooh, who's a good spokesperson?
2 puppies? I did not expect that from you.
Ooh, one of them's for you. Oh, ooh, who's a good spokesperson? Yes, go to West Her. Oh.
Welcome to West Her, New York.
Hi, my name is Evan Spindleman, founder and owner of Flood Broker. Flood insurance premiums are skyrocketing, and if you have to have flood insurance coverage to secure your mortgage, you owe it to yourself to call me to see how I can save you money on your flood insurance premium. The insurance programs I use are bank accepted and will satisfy your loan requirement. Please give me a call at 585-736-4366 today to get a free no-obligation quote. That's 585-736-4366. Call today.
Sharpe Way Radio on the WYSL stations.
Oh, yes, it is Larry Sharpe. Sharpe Way Radio on the Voice of Liberty here in amazing Western New York. 585-346-3000 is the number to call in. I've been talking a lot about prisons in the past. Today, a whole lot more. A whole lot more. And it's because I feel like it's all come back. It's almost like it's an I told you so show. I do a lot of those. I brought all these things up. If you go back and look, I talked about this 7 years ago when I ran in 2018, and no one paid attention. And now it's all coming back. I talked about the idea of the Holt bill, stopping the corrections officers from using solitary confinement. Now, I get it. Solitary confinement can be cruel, 100%. And there's also a way of using it to separate very violent people. Remember something. There are people in prison who are never getting out, and they know they're never getting out. There's nothing to lose. They don't care what they do. They're never getting out, and they know they're never getting out. If they ever happen to get out, they're going right back in, and they know they are. For that group of people, if you don't have tools to use, they will do whatever they want, no matter what. No matter what. They will punish people who shouldn't even be there. There's people in prison who aren't violent, who didn't really do anything bad. It's, some stupid law the assembly people made up with. Some of those are there too. And now they're the ones who are going to be punished by the bad guys. Well, then, shouldn't the corrections officers have that ability to do so? Yeah, so we modify it. We change it. We shift it. You know who could do something like that? The governor could. Make an executive order. Fix this problem. But her excuse is, well, it's a law, so it's the legislature. That's always the excuse. It's always the excuse. It's the legislature. Always. No matter what. I got to move forward. If I could. This goes on to another one, which is using outside vendors. They don't want you to use outside vendors anymore. Now, here's the problem. They've now gone too far. Just like Holt went too far. This case, I think the COs have gone too far. They want no use of third-party vendors. That's the same as Holt and the opposite. I want a very limited amount of third-party vendors. And when you use them, you must use them in conjunction with corrections officers. And I will give you a similar situation I brought up before. It is very common in New York State for consultants to come in and say, I'm going to fix your prison. It's a massive grift. A bunch of millions of dollars goes off to the governor's friends. The corrections officers are not even talked to, and it fails every time. And who pays the price for this? The corrections officers and the prisoners. Because the consultant takes his money or her money and walks away and it fails. And the governor gave out their job. The governor's happy. But they're all stuck with whatever's left over. So they're so mad, they want to make sure no one gets used. That's too far, COs. I love you guys. That's too far. You got to limit. I'm in. You got to be involved. I'm in. An example I'll give you is iPads. iPads? Yeah. There was a company that wanted to give iPads to prisoners. A nonprofit, I think. And you're saying, Larry, why do we want to give iPads? I don't want to pay for these iPads for prisoners. It was free. You don't have to pay for it. It was nonprofit. They gave it. Why would I want to give prisoners iPads? Why do they get free iPads and I don't? The COs wanted it. Why? For the same reason I said earlier. You have guys in those prisons who have nothing to lose. You can't do anything to them. They're afraid of your punishment. But now you can decide, do I give you an iPad or not? You ask COs. They will say crazy things like this. Hey, dude, don't stab anybody, and I'll give you an iPad. And if you stab somebody, I'm taking the iPad away. I know for the average person who hasn't been in prison, that sounds crazy. No. That's real. The problem is they didn't ask the COs how to do it. Each prison is different. So in certain prisons, you might want to make sure they only get it in common areas. In certain prisons, you might want to allow them to take it to their cells. You might not. I don't know. I'm not supposed to know. Neither is the legislature. You know who does know? The corrections officers. Give them the tools. Let them use them as they see fit. So allow for third parties to give things like iPads and include the COs so they can decide how to use these tools. I said this years ago. Now they're putting a pendulum in the opposite side. COs, you're off on this. Let the third parties come in. Just be involved. Just be involved. They also went on to talk about staffing reassignments. The ideas of changing and lowering staffing. This has to be a combination of not just COs, but also family members. Why? Because where you live. What happens if you live in Western New York and they didn't transfer you to Central New York? Then what? Going to change your commute by 2 hours. Your whole life changes. You got to pack up and move. Quit your job. I know somebody might say, you don't like your job, quit. I get that. I do. And let me ask you, you spend 10, 15 years, 12 years as a corrections officer. It's what you do. You understand how it works. You got a pension coming in about 10 years or so. You really want to quit your job? You really want to quit your job? In today's world, in New York State, you want to quit your job? I wouldn't. So now my life is a whole lot worse. Well, so Larry, they're government workers, whatever. Okay, got it. How about the family members who've changed their lifestyle so they can go visit their loved one? Well, now he's getting shifted or moved, or now he can't be seen because when you don't have enough corrections officers, you have to cancel visitations. Oh, you think about that, did you? I did. So did they. Because now they're canceling visitations. Well, I'm trying my best to keep the father in the life of my kid. I can't because they keep changing everything. They keep canceling everything. This is serious. It matters, and no one seems to care. I would argue you've heard no one else talk about this but me because nobody does. It does matter. Am I wrong? You can tell me. 585-346-3000. Larry Sharpe here on Sharpe Way Radio, on the Voice of Liberty. Back with your calls and your chat. I see you. I've been yapping. I know. I'm kind of passionate, but I will get to your chat, I promise, after the break.
God bless America.
WYSL.
AM 1040 Avon, Rochester. WLEA WCKR FM, Parnell.
Here's the latest forecast from the News 10 NBC Weather Center for today. Another cold and windy day with some areas of blowing snow in the open countryside. Temperatures in the teens and low 20s. Any lake effect snow will be right up near Lake Ontario and into parts of Wayne County. For tonight, some areas of lake effect snow close to the lake. Temps in the single digits on Wednesday. A few lake flakes in the morning and clearing in the afternoon. I'm Rich Ganilla for the Voice of Liberty.
WYSL.
Canisteo Valley Update.
Hornell Department of Public Works Chief Mitch Cornish says there were heavy winds and icy roads yesterday, leading to some accidents on Route 36 between Hornell and Bath. However, DPW Chief Mitch Cornish says things are much better on the roads today. It is sunnier and not as windy, though it is very cold outside today. In other Hornell news, school officials say that at the Rochester Winter Track League Championship meet recently, Hornell 7th grader Brianna Wilkinson achieved a remarkable feat. She not only broke the school record in the 1,000-meter state run, but also clocked the fastest time in the nation this indoor season with a time of 3 minutes, 10 seconds, and 48 tenths of a second. Wow. Brian O'Neill for the Voice of Liberty.
When you think chicken, think Stearns Poultry Farm Stores. Stearns Poultry Farm Stores with 2 locations, Seneca Street, Hornell, and Route 244 in Alfred Station. Stearns, the best chicken in these parts.
Debunking advertising from the law office of Christopher Johnson. One ad some injury attorneys inundate you with, "What's your case worth? Call us and find out." You know, nobody can tell you, quote, what your case is worth over the phone. Nobody knows. The ultimate answer to, quote, what your case is worth involves weeks or months of research, evaluation, and preparation. Many factors go into any compensation you might get, like applicable law, who's actually at fault, how much insurance coverage there is, and many, many other factors. At the law office of Christopher Johnson, the singular focus is getting your life back on track after an accident or injury.
Okay, we have 2 calls. First one will be Mike, and then after that, Keith.
Informed by straight.
You're welcome.
Christopher Johnson, attorney. Car, truck, motorcycle accidents, personal injury, and DWI defense. Call 585-415-3803. 585-415-3803.
Hi, I'm Steve Tasker. Over the years, my wife Sarah and I have supported Heritage Christian Services and the work that they do to advance an inclusive and equitable community. Heritage Christian Services and their staff support people with intellectual and developmental disabilities by offering meaningful and diverse experiences. Like us, they believe that people are entitled to dignity, respect, equity, and justice, and that belief is reflected in all that they do. While disability services are what they were founded on, their work extends to offer life-enriching opportunities for people throughout the community through therapeutic writing, health and wellness services, and childcare, and more. Now more than ever, Heritage Christian Services needs your support to continue their work. Consider becoming a friend to Heritage Christian like Sarah and I did almost 20 years ago. You can choose to volunteer, share their job opportunities, or make a donation. To learn more, visit heritagechristianservices.org. That's heritagechristianservices.org.
Most banks offer you a choice. Or maybe it would be better to say they demand a choice. Technology so you can bank when you want to, or relationships so you can get advice when you need it. But when you choose to bank with Tompkins, you can have it all. Powerful technology and the power of a face-to-face talk about your future. Because both are part of the best banking relationship you'll ever have. Tompkins, your bank of choice. Open an account today at tompkinsbank.com.
Stay ahead of unplanned repairs on your home heating system with a winter home comfort special from Turnbull. Let them help you get through the winter. Get $500 off a brand new heating system when you schedule a free, no obligation estimate with Turnbull Heating and Air before March 31st. Or call Turnbull before March 31st and get your furnace cleaned for just $98. Get peace of mind and stay cozy. Turn to Turnbull.
You'll be comfortable with the best. Turnbull Heating and Air.
Dependable Disposal offers weekly residential trash and recycle tote service. Dependable Disposal, local business, local people you know. Call Dependable Disposal 585-505-1500. Let's see what we can do for you.
Sharpe Way Radio on the WYSL stations.
Oh, yes. It is Larry Sharpe here on Sharpe Way Radio on the Voice of Liberty. 585-346-3000 is the number. Two quick comments, if I could. From YouTube, Dina says, Larry, thanks for talking about this. I had no idea how bad the situation is. My friend's dad, who's retired as a corrections officer in Iowa, passed away suddenly at an early age. I get it now. Yes, it's an issue. Steven says from Facebook, the inmates already have iPads. They've had them for a few years now. Agreed. I brought this up, Steven, 7 years ago. So it was a thing 7 years ago. My issue wasn't whether or not they should have iPads or not. I don't actually know that. My issue was the corrections officers have to be involved to decide who, what, where, when, why. That's my only issue. So let me grab a couple calls if I could. First call I want to grab is Mike. How are you, sir?
Hey, Larry, pretty good. I'm glad you brought this up about the prisons. First of all, we're leaving the criminals run around out here without consequences. So when they get to jail, it's a continuation. But my main point is the actual conditions inside the jails themselves. Okay?
Yep.
New York State has used the jail program as a cash cow by funneling stuff to their friends and family. The quality
100%.
of the food for our prisoners, okay? You give them the lowest of the low, but you charge in the state the highest. And also, too, the commissary program, okay, where you got somebody, your food is so unedible that you force the convicts or the prisoners to go to your store.
Yes.
They charge them 3 times the amount of money for junk food. Okay?
Yes.
No, you can't buy anything healthy. It is strictly junk food, no sugar, because obviously they're making things with something with sugar. So now you're giving them crap food. Okay?
Yep.
You're putting them in there. And also, too, one other thing is the programs that they're supposed to be having. I know some people who've been in and out of the system. Okay?
Yep.
And the programs that supposedly they're supposed to have for, GEDs and everything. Okay, great. They get, the governor comes down. Oh yeah, we're going to do this program, this and that program. She takes the pictures. Okay, a month later, oh, where's the program? Well, that money
doesn't matter
somewhere else.
People got paid. That's all that matters, Mike. It's a grift.
Right. I'm not a softie, but you know what? At least there's if these people were if these people were prisoners of war, there's a Geneva Convention. You have to feed them. You have to feed them so many calories a day that's edible. You have to keep them there. And as far as the corrections officers, God bless them. I mean, they're in there. They're fighting in the trenches. And Kathy Hochul is even making their job more dangerous. So,
and that's the hardest part is that if I know people often say, why do we care about the prisoners in jail? They're bad guys, they're prisoners, that kind of stuff, right? I get where they're going. I understand the emotion, but there's 3 parts to that. Number one, to your point, the worse we make it in there, the more dangerous it is for the corrections officers. You're right, Mike. I'm not saying we want to, make it a hotel. I'm not saying that. But if we make it terrible, they're going to take it out on the corrections officers. So we make their job harder. We've got to find that balance. Number 2, some of these people aren't that bad. The guys who are terrible, I get it. There's horrible people who should never come out. There's also people who should do their time and get out and have a chance at life. And the last part is there's still family members outside who still care about these people. So we do have, it's not as black and white as someone would say, Mike. That's what I'll say. I think we're on the same page.
Right. Also, if I could bring up one other point, when you leave these people out, okay, these people are going right back to their same situations. Okay. There is no programs out there that help people, especially, like the women up in Auburn. Okay. There's really, they're trying to start a program where they can come out and have a safe place. They're not going right back to that same home environment, because when they do that, they're going right back to the same lifestyle. You know what? A few dollars there, but you know what? It's been used as a money grip. But we could give all these illegal migrants all this other money.
Yes. Valid point, Mike. Thanks for the call, my friend. I appreciate it. All right, let me grab another call if I could. I have Keith. Keith, how are you?
Yes, sir. Yes. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Hello?
I hear you.
Hello? All right. I heard a ringing there. The caller, Mike, is a good guy, and he always has good insight. I called in to say, to push it a bit, and you partially already answered it. Society does not have respect anymore for any category of people or occupation, whether it be the prisoners, which you and Mike were commenting on, and you were talking earlier about the lifers who have nothing left to lose. But we don't value anything anymore. I know you're a Marine, once a Marine, always a Marine. I'm holding here one of my favorite books to reread, Iwo Jima. Everyone should know that battle started 80 years ago tomorrow, 1945, February 19th. It lasted 36 days. Almost 7,000 Marines were killed at
7,000,
Iwo. But this book I'm holding right here, Iwo Jima, subtitle Legacy of Value by Bill D. Ross. He was actually on Iwo. He wrote this book 40 years after the battle. I would ask everyone to get this book by Bill D. Ross, R-O-S-S, Iwo Jima. The point I want to make in closing, these men knew they were going to die, many of them. There was not enough adequate pre-invasion bombardment. And these men, they took over 2,000 casualties just on the first day they're hitting the beach. Again, 80 years ago tomorrow. And I just want to say, I want to say that like the Marines who were valued back then in a most spiritual way, we're going to have to value all people, even the hated criminals, because we don't start elevating anyone. And we don't. I always call it the death of outrage. No one today cares about anything. It's just unbelievable. No one has memory. No one today really, in my words, to say it quickly, no one today really cares much about anything. And in closing, I would ask everyone, 80 years ago tomorrow, these brave Marines, 7,000 who gave the full measure and sacrifice, we have to take their spirit, in this case, bring it back into the correction system, like Mike was saying, and you too, redo the whole system and elevate everyone, corrections officer, even to the meanest bad guy in the system. We have to elevate everyone, believe it or not, in a spiritual manner, and bring our country back to hopefully some kind of a spiritual entity where we really start to respect and love each other like in past generations.
I appreciate that, Keith. Thank you so much for the call, my friend. Thank you. So I like what Keith had to say. I like what Mike had to say. I think there is a balance. I do have some people online who are a little bit upset. Craig says, it's jail. They shouldn't be coddled. Oatmeal for breakfast, PB&J for lunch, spaghetti for dinner. No more programs, no cable TV, board games and books. I understand your passion, Craig. But I want to go back to what I said earlier. There are two aspects here. If we make it to where there's nothing for them, then how can corrections officers control them? They can't. There has to be carrots and sticks. And for those who are never getting out, the sticks don't work. So there must be carrots for the people who are never getting out. So it has to happen that way. I don't want to make it to where the people who will be getting back out, the people who need a second chance at life, I don't want to make them so horrible to where they can't have a second chance at life. Not just that, I don't want a world where corrections officers are nothing but cruel monsters because no one else can do it. Why would I do that? Someone's got to do this job. So we have to make it to where it's a livable place. There is literally a national problem with people not being corrections officers. It's not just New York. It's horrible in New York. It's across the country. This has to be repaired. This has to be fixed in some way. And there is a balance. The problem is, as Andrea said also, the pendulum is swinging so far both sides that it's like, give the criminals everything or give the criminals nothing. Give the corrections officers everything or give the corrections officers nothing. No, we can find an answer for this, like anything else, right? We can, 100%. So the issue I want to bring up here is, I get your passion, Craig. I do. And we do have to have an answer for this. Mr. Taz says, for-profit prisons are the problem. We don't have those in New York. So they may be the problem, not here. We don't have for-profit prisons in New York. It's not a thing here. So I don't think that really works. Jamie says, idle hands are the devil's workshop. iPads would work, but the problem is the violent criminals could use the batteries for fires, the glass for cutting people. That would be dangerous. It would have to be limited for certain individuals. I'll go back to the same thing again. Jamie, you and I don't have to know this. Corrections officers do. Give them the tools and let them figure out how to make it work. And each prison is also different. There are certain prisons where they probably could give it to anybody. I mean, I'm making that up. I don't know. But they know. Give them the tools. This is what I want. I want them to have more tools. Look, you heard what Mike said. He said there aren't many programs to actually help people get out. That's true. I had one in 2018. It was called the CRU, the Community Rehabilitation Unit, CRU, based off the Humvee program in Massachusetts. That program, at the time, this is probably 10 years ago when it came out, give or take, the recidivism rate in Massachusetts at the time was almost 80%. 80% will come back. For that program, less than 5%. Massive difference. Can you imagine if less than 5% of the people who got out of prison came back? Less than 5%. Changes the state. I use this magic number because there is a magic number. And this goes back to what Keith was saying, valuing people and their work. If a felon gets out of prison and is able to work for 5 years straight, 5 years is the number, I don't know why, but the data is there, the odds of them committing a crime are lower than the average American. They're literally safer than the average American. 5 years of work. To your point, Jamie, idle hands are the devil's workshop. Keep people employed. They don't go back to jail. We don't pay for them. They pay taxes. We don't pay for them. We don't have to coddle them. We can fix this. It can be done. Am I crazy? You can tell me. 585-346-3000. Larry Sharpe, Sharpe Way Radio on the Voice of Liberty. Back with your calls and your chat after the break.
Donald Trump and conservatives may have won, but you know the left will unceasingly try to undermine society and spread evil, targeting the innocent and God-fearing, especially our children. Help promote a truth-based society and try something different in 2025. The WYSL stations can grow your business, professional practice, or organization, so allocate your ad dollars here. Reach our huge audience, entertained, inspired, and informed by leading conservative thought. Affordable, effective. The WYSL stations, the voice of liberty. Call 585-346-3000 to advertise.
Most banks offer you a choice. Or maybe it would be better to say they demand a choice. Technology so you can bank like you want to, or relationships so you can get advice when you need it. But when you choose to bank with Tompkins, you can have it all. Powerful technology and the power of a face-to-face talk about your future. Because both are part of the best banking relationship you'll ever have. Tompkins, your bank of choice. Open an account today at tompkinsbank.com.
Livingston County Pizza Company and Gluten-Free Bakery has a great deal on Tuesdays. A large 4-topping pizza for $18, regular or gluten-free. Call 226-9575. Open Tuesday through Sunday. Livingston County Pizza Company and Gluten-Free Bakery in Avon.
Avon Gun and Hunting Supply, a locally owned and operated gun shop specializing in pre-owned firearms and repairs. Get your rifle, shotgun, or pistol serviced and tuned before you take it to the field. Open from 10 a.m. Tuesday through Saturday. Avon Gun, East Main Street, next to Tompkins Community Bank.
Sharpe Way Radio on the WYSL stations.
Oh, yes. It is Larry Sharpe here on Sharpe Way Radio on the Voice of Liberty. So happy that you're giving me a small chunk of your afternoon. We are talking about corrections officers, prisoners, the prison system, and boy, have we got some people who have some opinions, which I'm happy. We should be talking about this. Most of the time we don't. The corrections officers, along with parole officers too, are the forgotten people of law enforcement. They're just forgotten. And once someone becomes a criminal, well, they're not human anymore. Who cares? And I want to be clear. There are some terrible people in prison who should never get out. Of course. And there are people who should do their time and have a second chance at life. Both of those people, types of people, are in prison. So let's control the ones who are bad, who are unrepairable, and there are some. I'm not trying to be mean, being real. And then let the people who can get a second chance, give them a second chance. Look, even if you don't care about them individually, maybe you say, I don't know them, I don't care. Okay, wouldn't you rather them be paying into the system than being a drain on the system? Give them a chance to do that. That's all I'm saying. Not crazy. Phil says, locking people up does nothing to repay victims. If someone steals, you should repay the victim. If someone assaults, they should repay the hurt person. If it's a real crime, there's a real victim who needs to be made whole. Phil, could you imagine if our goal, it isn't, but imagine if our goal was, let's put this person into prison, train them on something. We're spending money anyway, so they can come back out, and a cut of whatever they make for whatever dollar value, whatever the court deems, goes back to the victim until they've, paid X dollars or whatever. I made it up, right? Maybe if it's not even in theory, it may not even be cash. It could be time. You got to go, I don't know, mow their lawn every Thursday for 3 years. I made that up, obviously. I don't know. But anything like that would be better than just put them in prison, make them harder than they've ever been, give them no chance to do anything of any value. Meanwhile, the victim is not even close to made whole. I agree with you. Leela says they pay restitution. Not a bad plan, but we're nowhere near that, right? We're nowhere near that. We are all about punishment, punishment, punishment. John says those people are in prison in the hope of being rehabilitated. Until they die, they have some level of basic rights. Agreed. Even the hardened criminals who are never going to be rehabilitated, who may be sociopathic and violent, even them, they do deserve basic human rights. To Craig's point, maybe they don't deserve cable TV and cell phones, yes, but they deserve basic human rights. And with that in mind, they are a danger to the corrections officers, and they're a danger to the nonviolent criminals. They are a danger. So we have to control them somehow. Either that's through some form of carrot,
Roger,
iPad or whatever, or it's going to have to be some form of solitary confinement. That's how that works. We can't have neither of those. So I agree with you, John. Let me move on, if I could, to a call. This is Roger. How are you, sir?
Hey, how you doing? So
what's going
I'm
on?
going to say this real quick. But I know I have limited time, but I want to talk about prison labor being used against workers on the outside and used to exploit the workers on the inside. That was all because of the loophole left in the 13th Amendment that said slavery is legal if you are imprisoned by the government. Okay? And with the private prison industrial complex and shareholders having an interest in, treat it like a hotel where the more bodies fill in beds, the more stock options and money that they get. That's a problem, especially when you got judges who have invested in some of these shares as well. So there has to be something done with that. Then you make laws that, because I know you're not a big fan of why do we need this law, why do we need that law. They need those laws to make an excuse to put you in prison so people can still keep getting their money from having shares in prisons. So if we got rid of, if we just stationalize, nationalize the prison system, okay, then there would be less of a financial incentive to make laws to make it easy for people to go to prison. And we invest that money.
There's two pieces I want to bring up here. One of them is the way they do it in New York State is companies use the slave labor to make products and services, and then people invest in those companies. They're not actually investing in the prison itself in New York State. Now, other states, that's true. New York State, that isn't true. New York State, they invest in the company itself. That's how they get around it. You're absolutely correct, right? The reality of it is making money off this labor
2 minutes
is
left.
a bad thing. If we're doing it to train them, that's different. If we're using it, what we are using is so we don't have to pay the average person a good salary because I can pay a prisoner. We're being like China. Your point is a valid one. I think we do want to moderate that in some way, that we are supporting a trade for the people in prison without crushing the people who are on the outside. I agree, Roger.
So, see, that's the reason why you've been seeing a lot of ballot measures that have been passing that close the loophole in the 13th Amendment to afford prisoners their labor rights. Now, you know what's funny? A lot of red states did that, but California voters failed to amend that the legislative amendment put before them to abolish prison labor or whatever the case was, and they showed no, we want to have prison labor.
Yes.
And why was it so close? It was 53% no. So first of all, it shouldn't have been close. Second of all, why was it's like, okay, so this is where you could blame the voters. You know what I mean? We have this thing about blame the government.
Harris was all about prison labor. It's just not a red state, blue state thing. This is a people want their slave labor. Doesn't matter. If you're part of the elite, you're part of the elite. Wow, what a terrible way to end this show. Guys, remember, corrections officers matter. The families matter too. Humans matter. This does matter. We should solve this. Thank you for giving me a chunk of your afternoon. I will see you all very soon.
Have a good one.